Hey everybody, happy Friday. We are here with a special edition live stream. My name is Jason over at Pater DFS. I'm joined by my guy Tribe. Tribe, how are we today?
I'm good, bro. It's Friday.
Yeah, it's
Weekend is here,
Friday.
so
I got that cousin Skeeter song in my head, the one that guy dances to whatever it's Friday. Um and we got a special guest joining us shortly. But yeah, we wanted to, do a little impromptu live stream breakdown. The models kind of go over large field, small field sort of strategies for tonight. So I'm gonna kick it to you, Tribe. So pre-show you did say that this slate is very, very straightforward to you. I know you're playing mostly small field contest. So what are you seeing tonight?
yeah. So like starting with pitcher, like it's really just Cease, Gray, Gilbert, Warren. Like that's my pitcher pool, and then just based on the pricing, like and how those combinations work, it's Cease, Gray, or Gilbert, Warren, and like that's just what I'm sticking to. So allocating roughly 18K at both pitcher spots. Um, and even if I were expanding, I'm still debating if I want to do like 20 max stuff, but I am very much in that camp of like I'm willing to take stands and have like a heavier allocation on a tighter pool of players, and if I'm right, like it's going to be a good night. Versus some people are uh, have more diversity in their lineups when they do that. But I say that to say even if I were doing like 20 lineups or in that range, like it'd probably still be that same pitcher pool, and then I'm just like rotating through bats and stacks.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm in full agreement with you too, man. Even from a large field perspective, it's just like very hard for me to get away from the combo of, yeah, like Gray, Gilbert, Warren, Pepio. Like the only one that I'm really feeling okay about, like maybe getting to as a stretch, is is it maybe like Yuri Perez, just because Arizona doesn't have Corbin Carroll. But did that stop them from exploding? No, it didn't. Right.
No.
So like that's the only one I could really think about. But I'm in complete agreement, man. I think my pitching pool, if I have anybody below 8K today, I'll be very, very shocked. Soriano is one guy that if you want to eat the ownership, you can. He's been phenomenal, but the Nationals are also built to really hurt a guy like him. They're just full of lefties. So I don't know. I'm going to probably circle the wagons and see. But yeah, right now, a lot of my combinations are like Warren Pepio, Warren Gray, Warren Gilbert, Cease Warren, stuff like that. Um, oh, we got a question here. Dustin May. No, I'm not going to go there tonight. Even looking at pay dirt, like we haven't projected decently well. I'm just not going to attack that. I get KC's not been good. They haven't been good, but they still don't strike out a ton. The weather there's really good. It's a really good park. I just don't think I need to click Dustin May today. But what do you think, Tribe?
Not on a 14 game slate. One, two. Dustin May is, for those who don't know, I hate Dodgers pitchers for the most part, and the reason why is Dustin May is like the archetype of this. It was like a very mid pitcher who gets boosted as being seen as a good pitcher because the team itself is really good. Like if this were reversed, right, and he were on any other team, like we might talk about stacking against him, right? Um, so if it was a shorter slate, considering how cold KC has been, like sure, but on 14 games, there's just no need to go there. The other thing I just wanted to call out to mentioned a few times now since we've been doing some of these streams recently is just using the contest analyzer. That's an experimental section on the PayDirt site. Check it out if you haven't. It is really, really good stuff. Shout out to James for putting that together. But especially in the contest I'm playing, you just continue to see the trend of sharps in the top 1% of lineups paying up, not like super paying up at pitching. Like you're not playing like two 10K guys, but an 8K guy and a 9K guy or two 9K guys, like just really locking in the floor at pitching. And then seeing this 5-man stacks really between like 3.5 and 4K on average per bat there. So I've been kind of like messing around with that template. And tonight, looking at some of the teams that stand out in the models, which we'll get to when we go over to the stacks tab and the range of outcomes, there's some clear teams that are within that range that I want to target tonight.
Yeah, I totally hear you. And also the other thing that a lot of sharp players do, they tend to eat chalk pitching more often than not. So hold on. It looks like our special guest has arrived. Yo, what's up, dude?
What's up, fellas? How you doing?
We're doing all right, man. We just started breaking down some pitching cores today. Tribe went through small field. I went through large, and we're answering some questions now. But Pablo, thank you for joining us. For those that don't know, Pablo is our resident, theological savant and psychological savant over at Paydirt DFS. And I wanted to
I'll take it. I will pre-warn you that I'm going to be I will be playing speed chess tonight because I have registered a few lineups. I'm still playing very light volume until I break out of my cold streak. Literally as we speak, with lock 1 hour away, is the first time I'm looking at this slate. So I will probably be learning more from you than I will be contributing.
Okay. Well, as we go through, man, just feel free to pick things off, things you agree with, don't agree with. C Mills wants to know who's the new guy. Pretty funny. And Anthony Falley said Soriano, Gray, and Kelly. I like Gray a lot. Soriano, I think, is fine if you want to do that. I just don't know if you need to pay down really. And Kelly, Merrill Kelly. I can't click Merrill Kelly when I could just play Sonny Gray or Logan Gilbert tonight. Can't do it. But so, any pitchers that you guys think are a little off the wall that maybe the sheets don't really like, but you have a loins feeling about, a good feeling about?
Tribe, I'll let you go first because I'm not going to have thoughts for probably about another 15 minutes or so.
Not really. No. I think
it's that kind of slate.
It's brutal. It's brutal, man. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm looking at some of these names like Bryce Elder, I guess, if you want. When it comes there, it's probably that range that would be pivots off of Soriano. Do I want to play 20% Soriano chalk? Not really. So if you have a build you like, right, that has Soriano in it, and you don't want to eat that chalk, then you want to take a look at a guy like Bryce Elder, sure. In that scenario, you want to take a look at a guy like Dustin May, okay, I get it, right? As just a leverage point of keeping that chalk build, but getting off of there. But because I'm not building that way in the first place, I don't really have much interest in any of those. Anybody really below Will Warren at 8,300.
Yeah, the only two guys that admittedly, when I took a look briefly last night, who were interesting either from the standpoint of salary and or matchup, and one of them projects pretty well according to our sheets. The other one does not. One is Pepio. Tampa's pitching has been pretty nails for the last month.
Yep.
I don't know what they did. It was a pep talk in the clubhouse. But he is not typically the type of guy I want to pay 86 for. But if you look at his last few starts, he's had 4 starts in a row where he has over 7 Ks, including 11 Ks 2 games ago where he went 8 innings against Baltimore and struck out 11. And he gets them again, right? So it's interesting. And Sheets have him with a pretty decent 2x. He looks like he's amongst for people with medians over 19. It's him and Will Warren in that low 8K range, mid K 8K range. So I think he's interesting. The other guy who is interesting from a matchup standpoint, but does not project as well. And it's just if he's just cheap and he gets the White Sox is Roop. Roop is 7,600. our sheets don't love him, but I admittedly I don't know yet based on build structure with bats how much you need those savings, but it's pretty cheap against the White Sox.
Yeah, I agree. Roop is the only other guy that I could really go to down there if I'm going to, but I just don't think you even really need to do that tonight, right? Like if you look at these teams that are in great hitting environments, like the Padres are just so cheap outside of Tatis and Machado, and the rest of their team is basically free. There's just you want to play. There's like cheap parts of Atlanta. You can play cheap parts of Philadelphia. You could play the Rays, the Giants. Like there's just so many teams you could play that have so much upside that I don't think you need to sacrifice going down there to really go get them. If you want to play the Dodgers, sure, but I don't think you even really need to do that. But any other pitching thoughts before we get on to some bats?
Well, let me just ask you guys this since I was a little bit late.
Sure.
I'm looking at I mean, we've talked a lot about chalk analysis, and to me, a lot of these slates, especially as things have become more optimal sort of approaches, it boils down to how good or bad do you think the chalk is. So I'm seeing, based off of our sheets and then some of the industry stuff I look at, it looks like Will Warren, Gilbert, Cease, Soriano are probably the main four, right? With Gilbert looking like heavy chalk on our sheets, and then Warren and Soriano both being quite owned as paydowns. So I guess my question for both of you would be, like, how do you feel about those guys? Do you feel like they're fair chalk? Do you feel like they're good chalk? Do you feel like they're bad chalk? If you had to sort of say for each of them, good, bad, or okay, how would you categorize them? Because I think that's going to inform your willingness or your desire to pivot off of them. And then keeping in mind that on a huge 14 gamer, outside of like Gilbert, I'm seeing heavy ownership on our sheets. No one's going to be that owned. So I don't even know. I mean, sometimes just not playing a guy gives you enough leverage, but sometimes you say, you know what, if someone's fine chalk on a huge slate, it's still only 20%. Like you're not eating a guy who's 60% or something like a small slate.
Yeah, it's a good question. Tribe, you want to go first?
Yeah, so Gilbert, Cease, I'm good with. Warren is fine. Soriano, I would fade.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. I mean, I would say too that, and I know that this wasn't your question, but I think with our ownership here, I think directionally it's pretty accurate. I think you don't see Soriano as high, but I think you see Warren a little higher. Like I wouldn't be surprised if Warren's closer to 30%, and I wouldn't be surprised if Gilbert, and I'm speaking from large field, is probably a little lower, like 30 to 32, roughly, just because people want to go spend on bats. I have no problem playing all four of them. I will say though, I do think that like Dylan Cease in this environment, like he can go out there and strike out 13, but if he leaves like any pitch hanging, like he could give up 4 home runs tonight too in this weather. So if I had to pick, I probably feel better about fading Soriano and Cease rather than fading Gilbert and Warren.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like in small field, Gilbert is where you start. Like to be clear, if you're playing small field kind, you're playing the 44, you're playing the 121, the 88, etc. Like plug in Gilbert and then figure out the rest of your lineup.
Yep. Not to mention too, Will Warren has probably the best pitching weather he's going to see. The Yankees are going to see all summer. It's like 14 degrees wind, like blowing inward right now. And, I also really like just pivoting to Pepio in that range. Like, save the 400 on Cease, go play Pepio. I'd rather just do that. And, but no, yeah, that's if I had to rank it, yeah, it's Gilbert, Warren, tier A, and then Soriano, Cease, tier B.
Yeah, Cease has been interesting. I mean, we've talked about this in the past, but Cease is one of those pitchers that I don't know. I mean, to me, he's similar to his now or his former teammate Blake Snell, where when they're right, they're just unbelievable, but when they're wrong, I'm not a ball knower. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, when he's right, he's unbelievable. When he's not, he kind of gets hit pretty hard. And he has been right 2 of his last 3 starts, including one against kind of a cold Dodgers. But he's also been wrong plenty. And I don't know what the weather is in small field Cincinnati, but it's not the best environment usually to pick on a pitcher, to pick a pitcher, right? Small park. Yeah, the only other guy that I'll ask you guys about, just because the total sticks out, and it's a team that we've picked on all year in terms of using pitchers against them, and it's gross because he's not a guy who I'd be excited to play, but I just feel the need to point out that they have a super low run total, and they've traditionally been very good to pitching. Is Quintana against the Rocks?
Not at this price. If he were under 8K, sure.
Also, too, the Rockies have been a little bit better the last month against left-handed pitching too. Not that that's saying that like Quintana can't do that. Like Quintana's a guy who just like never really. He reminds me of like when Kyle Hendricks started to like lose his stuff a little bit, where like Kyle Hendricks would go out, strike out like 3 to 4. He gives up 3 to 4 hits, maybe 1 to 2 earned runs. He doesn't get killed, but he doesn't really. He's not a good DraftKings play either. And at 8K, it's like if I can go get Will Warren with like a 30.
Yeah, I was going to say there's no reason you shouldn't just find the $300 to go play Will Warren.
Yeah, I'd even rather almost roll the dice on like a Luis Ortiz rather than play him or Dustin May. But
I'm with you guys. People are just wondering it, and I'm not. I agree. If I had 100, I'd maybe have 3 of him, but not in small field.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, you guys ready to talk some bats?
Yes, sir.
All right. I just refreshed the range of outcomes here. James just updated. Turns out, LA at the top still, no surprise. We have Atlanta followed by Detroit, the Yankees, and a pretty sizable drop off to the Brewers. So Tribe, starting with you. I know you're playing small field. What bats are you looking at tonight for small field contest?
So I love the Angels. Yankees are interesting. You can stack Yankees pretty comfortably with pitching, but you have to it doesn't feel great, but you have to fade Judge. Like if you fade Judge, the rest of the team is affordable. Detroit, no issues going back there with them. Atlanta, never any issues with them, but it's kind of the similar thing to the Yankees, right? Where it's like you got to decide, like if you're including Acuna in the stack, you're probably going to have to drop at one of your pitching spots. If you want to keep, your spend ups at pitching, you're probably going to have to stack Atlanta and fade Acuna, which doesn't feel great because he is legit their best player. Not even their best. They're like Judge is like the best hitter on the Yankees. You know what I mean? But like Acuna, like he's gonna steal bases. He can get there without hitting a home run.
Yep.
Whereas like Judge, I feel like has to hit a home run for him to bury you.
I totally agree. And I also think that enough of these Atlanta guys that are behind Acuna profile really, really well against this guy, Abel. The only thing with Atlanta is that the bottom 4 of their lineup is out.
Oh, they suck.
Oh, yeah, big time. Albies has been a little bit better. Ozuna's been okay, but the rest of them are like that bottom 3 is not even a starting bottom 3 in the league. That's how bad they really are. So that's my only concern. The Philadelphia bullpen's been getting killed. So sure. I just think you're banking on it's kind of like I said, pre-slate, there's a lot of teams that I think you could 5-man stack. They're a team that I kind of think you can grab the best 3 and you're going to capture all the offense for them. You have a better shot at doing that.
Yes, I do. I do prefer them as many stacks, especially if I'm stacking a cheaper team. Filling it in with guys like Riley, Olsen, etc.
Definitely. One team I wanted to highlight on here, and then I want to get your thoughts, Pablo. And that's Detroit. And price pivot off of Atlanta here. The one thing I like about Detroit is that I kind of think you could find value at multiple positions, like infield and outfield. If you're going to go Colt Keith leadoff, if he's batting leadoff, I feel a little bit better about him not getting pinch hit for. But you go Colt Keith leadoff, you go Glaber, Kerry Carpenter, Riley Green, and then a Dingler or something like that. I kind of feel pretty good. This Minnesota bullpen has been getting absolutely destroyed, and David Festa, jury's out on him. Our sheets think he's like okay. I think most places have him projected pretty poorly the last time I looked. So I think I like that a little bit. And also Milwaukee. I kind of think Milwaukee's A+ run should be a lot higher here. So Pablo, what are your initial thoughts? I know this is your first time going through it.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, my initial thoughts are on first pass, just going from run total, highest to lowest run total. Don't love the Dodgers. First game out of Coors in Kansas City against Cameron, who I know we all think is worse than he's been, but just, first game out of Coors, just a team that's been kind of cold. Yanks look really strong. I'm assuming they're pretty chalky because I'm seeing them listed as like the top stack across the industry, and our sheets have them as owned, but not prohibitively owned in any way. So that's surprising to me. Presumably, they're not as owned as you would expect because of pricing, but the D-backs, not the D-backs, the AF, last time I checked, have one of the worst pens in the league. And Spence is a guy who's not, I know he's been okay, but he's not a guy that in any way scares me. So to me, the Yankees seem like a priority. I'm not going to overthink it, especially on a big slate where ownership is going to be more spread out, and they don't even look that owned, which is surprising to me. Sheets do have the Athletics with the worst bullpen ratio, the HWS ratio on our research sheet. So I just confirmed that while I was talking about it. So I love the Yankees. I think they're a full stack. The Braves have been tricky. I know you were just talking about them a little bit, Tribe. Man, oh man, they burned us so many times this year. They've been a little bit better with Acuna back, but I don't know what's up with them. They've got like bad mojo. They just can't seem to get it together. And I have no problem with them, but like, I don't know. I feel a lot better about the Yankees. I'll just say that. And then the other team that sticks out to me that I'll mention two more, just off the bat, based off of matchup and run total, is Savali is trash. He is now in Chicago.
Yes, Pablo, do it to him.
And the Giants are like relatively cheap. It's not a team that we ever always loved to stack, but like if positionally they work well with the Yankees, I want to explore some Yankees Giants combos. I just feel like
they're projected to be the chalk, by the way.
Oh,
but
fair
no,
enough.
it's a 14 games. It's a 14 game slate. So
yeah, and then the other one, the other team I have a hard time with because I don't know, just positionally they're hard to build with oftentimes, and you have to do weird stuff. But they do look like they've got some value in Isaac Collins. You just mentioned Milwaukee. I mean, every slate stack against the Rocks is in play. I wanted to hate them more than I do. I wanted to find a reason not to play them because I always sort of feel like Freeland's better than people think he is. But I'll say this: A, his performance does not back up my feeling. B, the Rockies bullpen is second worst behind Athletics. And C, Milwaukee has the best WRC plus against lefties over the last month, 2 weeks, and week. So Milwaukee basically checks every box.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement on Milwaukee. And the thing I like about Milwaukee too is that they have like upside all throughout their lineup. And I know it took a little while to realize it, but like Durbin, Ortiz, Terang, Reese, like all these guys have been very good. Isaac Collins has pop and speed. I just like how they can get it done in so many different ways. Like that. My worry about the Angels, and I probably play the Angels every slate more than any other human being on the planet. It's just that if they're not hitting home runs, they're not that valuable. A team like Milwaukee, when they hit home runs, it's almost like that's where they break open and have their ceiling outcome.
Right, because they didn't got on base a couple times. They stole a base or whatever, and like then that home, so they're already sitting there like 7 to 9 DK points, and then they, guy hits a home run. And now all of a sudden, you got multiple guys on their team sitting with like scores in the 20s. Yeah,
100%. And I want that bullpen coming out of Colorado too. I don't like that Milwaukee's home because I think they could just like kick the shit out of them, and then I don't know. Milwaukee tends to pinch hit people too, so like that's my one worry. But like that's such a minute worry. I like Milwaukee quite a bit tonight. There's one offense I do like on here that we don't have projected that well, but I want to call them out a little bit, and it's the Tampa Bay Rays. That's a team that I really have a strong loins feeling about tonight.
Same.
Reason being, and Tribe, you probably saw the same thing I did. Shigano to lefties is just atrocious. He can't really strike anybody out. This park too has been playing up left-handed power very, very well all year round. And now you get Tampa Bay, whose offense is clicking. They were just in a worse park for offense and did pretty well. They're kind of like, they remind me a lot of Milwaukee, except they have a little bit more natural power. Like these guys can get home runs, but all these guys have speed and it's cheap. Like you can go get like
it's also humid as in Baltimore. 84% humidity.
Exactly. The ball's going to be flying there. It's an 8.5 total, which I'm a little surprised it's not higher. But like you can go make a nice lineup. Yandy's been very good. Brandon Lau's been good. Caminero just hit a home run yesterday. And then the bottom half of their lineup, besides Danny Jansen, all steals bases at like an alarming clip. So I really like them quite a bit tonight. What are some offenses that you guys like that maybe the sheets don't?
Go ahead, Pablo. I'll let you go.
Well, I'm just looking at the sheets now. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on Tampa Bay. They've been getting hot, and Sugano does not scare me. And they've just been really good against righties, especially. I don't know that the sheets don't like anyone I like a lot aside from maybe San Francisco. I mean, San Francisco is pretty low on A+, like they're 16%. And I know they're chalky, but I don't know. Savali's pretty bad, and the White Sox pen is pretty bad. So that's probably the one team that I might veto in small field. Is I totally get that they're chalky, but to me they're at least interesting, if not a priority.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And Tribe, do you have anyone that you like? I know obviously Tampa Bay. We agree on any other ones that are catching your eye?
There's two teams, and part of it is value, but also just like there's a couple guys on these teams that I feel like you can play and like they won't kill you at their price and what they can do. And that's the White Sox, because I don't think the pitcher for San Francisco is all that good, to be honest.
And he may be luckier than expected. I don't think that many people are going to play Roop, but just the fact that I brought him up earlier because it's the White Sox, and he does make the list on some of the more prominent sites as like somebody people are considering. So you're not going to get a ton of direct leverage on a big slate like this. So I don't think it's like, oh, I got to stack against Roop, but he might come in a little more owned, and a little extra leverage, especially for a larger field, is never a bad thing. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah. And I'm not 5-man. I'm not advocating 5-man stacking them, but like a 2-man mini stack as value to fit in the bats you want and the pitching you want. Like I have no issues with that. Especially they got this cheap pitcher who's under 3K that's batting 5th. Like I always take a chance on cheap catchers that are going to get, should get multiple plate appearances, batting in a decent spot. And then Miami, because I don't trust Merrill Kelly.
Yep, I was just going to say them too, Tribe. I think going like a Ramirez, Stowers,
Edwards
exactly. Mini is pretty good, and I think he's going to have some ownership tonight too.
Yes, I think he'll be like the sharp pivot off of Gilbert.
Yeah. One thing I'm going to back you up on, Tribe, with the White Sox, because catcher is kind of a wasteland. I mean, catcher's always a wasteland, but the good catchers are either in bad matchups or expensive tonight, or both. Is I think Kyle Teal is a really nice value play catcher. He's batting 5th. He's hot. He's the top prospect. He's a nice one-off or part of a mini with White Sox if you need value.
Yeah. He's I think he's a very good cheap one. I think my favorite cheap catcher of the night, I mean, how do you not just like play Logan O'Hoppe everywhere?
Oh, at 3,400, yeah.
Yeah, like I just think that's Pablo, I'm going to let you give out the easiest click on the slate, but that's up there for me tonight for sure. All right, so all right, what other feelings do you guys have? Do you want to take a look at Sims?
Yeah, take a look at the Sims. See what they're saying. I hate to admit that I'm sort of liking the White Sox. I think it's because I like Warren and Gilbert as chalk pitching, and I want an expensive main stack like the Yankees. So
yes, that's exactly what
I need value, right? And the White Sox are just so damn cheap, and you need a team if you're going to play the Yankees that fills a bunch of infield spots. Because if you're playing the Yankees, you're probably playing at least Judge and Stanton. Stanton's 3,500. Like, I don't understand why. Like, I'm on board with Stanton being an old guy who can't run anymore, but like he shouldn't be 3,500 batting fourth for the Yankees.
He's DHing, right?
I think probably, yeah. I mean, have you seen that guy field?
Yeah,
have you seen that guy field? It's not good.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll say though too is like if you're gonna go that cheap, like I think I might just rather take like the back end of Milwaukee's lineup, but we will.
You're just tilting because on the last stream we talked about Milwaukee as a stack and said, watch how it's going to be the last part of their lineup that kills us.
No,
that's exactly what happened.
That's not why I'm tilting it. Really, I just think you're good. I just have visions of like Tyro Estrada throwing pitches in the seventh inning, and Caleb Durbin and Joey Ortiz just do it.
You were just slandering Ortiz less than a week ago.
Yeah, I learned from the error of my ways. I was yelling at him for bunting in the top of the fifth inning with no one on, and he comes back and tells me to shove it up my ass and homers twice. Like, maybe I didn't respect his process. That's on me. He's the pro. I'm not. So okay, I take it all back, Joey Ortiz. But all right, looking at the Sims, I ran this on small field very. So the first thing when we go look at starting pitchers, we start by exposure. Heavy exposure on Dylan Cease and Will Warren, so that's probably going to be a pretty sharp combo. Also, Sonny Gray and Logan Gilbert. We have Logan Gilbert showing up as a pretty negative edge. I mean, in small field, I have no problem eating Gilbert. That's probably just a product of his price versus the rest of the slate tonight. So when we go sort by edge, it's Cease, Gray, Warren. You have some Luis Ortiz, and then you have Berrios and Pepio. Minimal edges, worst edge. Soriano, Gilbert, and Merrill Kelly. So there goes that, Miami Mini we were talking about. What are your thoughts after seeing pitchers here?
Yeah, the only one I'd point out that we talked a little bit about before, but I just wanted to look at his numbers, is I wonder how owned Gray will be, because to me it feels like Warren, Gilbert, Soriano are going to be so heavy. Gray to me just feels like he's going to get squeezed at 9.4. And generally speaking, the Guardians aren't a team I've really wanted to pick on, right? He's going against Guardians, right? But they've been pretty darn bad in the last recent past against righties. They are just looking at their offensive production, the last month, they've been sixth worst offense against righties. In the last couple of weeks, they've been fifth worst. So Gray, I think, might be a sneaky lesser-owned play for a guy who has been pretty good, So, against, not tough matchups, but not cake matchups. He's had spike games against Detroit 5 starts ago, fine against Arizona, spike game against Texas, good against the Dodgers, got kind of beat up against Milwaukee, and then good against the Reds. So he's fairly hot. Like if you look at his season, first 6 to 8 starts versus his last 6 to 8 starts, I think his last, I'm just doing the math in my head, but like the last 6 to 8 starts, his xFIP is probably below 2.5. And I think the sheets, or the Sims rather, are pointing out that he's underowned. And I think that's a pretty sharp call out by the Sims.
Yeah, I would agree. I I'm going to play a lot of Sonny Gray tonight. I just think
Yep.
naturally he's just been very good, and also Cleveland has been dog shit. Their K rate to Pablo, I think it's like near 27% in the month-long sample, and I think it's like 26 like 0.8 in the 2-week sample. Kevin Gossman, just kind of sliced them too. So very interesting. I kind of like that call out. We go look at offenses, heavy exposure to the Angels here, followed by the Braves, Twins, which is kind of funny. There's the Rays, Milwaukee, and then Houston, and then kind of a log jam with everybody else. So what are your guys' takeaways from seeing the bats here?
Not seeing Yankees up there surprises me. But I'm guessing that's just a function that they don't project to be that owned.
It might be. I think if anything, they are projecting for some ownership. That's why they're showing up here. But
right, Braves are slightly higher.
Yeah.
And so I interpret that as like in that range, like the Braves are the small field play.
Yeah, I would probably agree, just because when you look at the weather too, in Atlanta, I think it's like 90 degrees and like winds blowing out. Yeah, it's going to be like high 80s, 65% humidity with slight winds blowing out. Game total approaching 10 there. Yeah, I think Atlanta might be that, and maybe the combination then to get Ronald Acuna and Matt Olson. Maybe the combination is they go down to somebody like a Soriano, or they go down to like a Luis Ortiz here.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what you see. Looking at overall exposures, just sort of by edge, regardless of position, just very much on the Angels. Sonny Gray here too. So love that, Pablo. I think going Cease Gray is probably a pretty sharp combo tonight. And outside of that, we got about 28 minutes to lock. What final thoughts do you guys have?
Yeah, the biggest debate I'm having, I don't know that I have like any crazy thoughts on bats. I feel like the bats I like are this is a 14 gamer. James and I kind of said the same thing in Discord like a few hours ago, which is on 14 gamers, like just let everybody else make mistakes. Like getting super sneaky is not the way to win these. It's like kind of like just whittling it down to the best pitchers and the best offenses and the best matchups. I think for my just sort of summary is pitching wise, the more I look at it, I think Gilbert and Warren are fine chalk. I think Gray is sneaky. I think Pepio's an interesting pivot. The one guy I'm like very iffy on, and I wish the Sims didn't like him as much as they do, is Cease. And I'm a little scared of how volatile he is. I totally get that the Reds are a high strikeout matchup, but I don't know. Like I would be, of all those guys, who would I be most surprised or least surprised didn't do that good at ownership is probably Cease. Like but I'm a little. That's the one guy I'm like going to debate a bunch because he's going to get ownership and he could also bury me if he does like 10 to 12 Ks. And then on the bats, I don't know. I feel like I've said this 1,000 times in the last few weeks, and maybe this is why I'm so cold because I keep waiting for it. But at some point, the Yankees are just going to go bananas. And to me, this feels like this is a good get right spot. I mean, the Athletics have a terrible pen. I don't think Spence is very good. They don't look that owned. I wish our sheets liked them more, but I will probably play the Yankees in the 121 because I just feel like one of these games they're going to go score 10 to 15 runs, and this game is as good as any other.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And what about you, Tri? What are your final thoughts?
Yeah, I think with this many games, I would caution against like trying to like cover all bases and like just spreading yourself too thin. I like looking at the sheets, like lean into the best spots, and I would encourage just go heavy on the best spots and different combinations of those spots, as opposed to like trying to like capture everything, particularly for those running out, multiple entries tonight.
Yeah, I agree. And my final thoughts for everybody tonight is I wouldn't get too different at pitching. It's kind of the same thing. I'd be shocked if I make a lineup with somebody sub 8K today. Like I would be very, very shocked. As of right now, about halfway through my build, I don't have any. So like I'm not doing that. But want to thank everybody for joining. We have to go build really quick. Nika, hi guys, fan your algorithm approach. Keep it up. Thank you. You can attribute that to our headmaster Baldy James McCool. He is the one who does the algorithms. We just explain it. And MJ, I haven't watched Gray's last couple of starts, but read his heater down to 91.1. We'll watch closely tonight. Yeah, we'll see. Probably mitigated by the matchup, but we'll see how it goes tonight. But everybody, thank you for joining. We got to go build. I'm Jason. That's Tribe. That's Pablo. Thanks for tuning in. See you guys on Tuesday.
Peace.
Peace.
Hey, Jason, log off.